The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best, again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt, executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God, stepping in score, Sunias Allah, a.k.a. Skilla Straight Low. And we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And this show is about my element of hip-hop, what I like to call the writer of art on art and science on music. As I say, it really is the only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I have been a veteran of over 25 years. You know what I mean? Get nuts out there trying to figure out and trying to tell everybody that this is an element. I remember those days. You know what I mean? Now I could just show and prove it to you all. And as we get closer to the end of the year, it's about, I've been doing my best to get these exclusive interviews for records that I think are the best in the year, the most unique in the year, forgotten records. And man, we got a brother today that he's literally family to me, you know what I mean? And to see his rise, to build with him all these years and to see his development, you know, is exceptional, you know what I mean? And in my book, The Filtered Real, Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, my goal was to introduce people to the bevy and the mass amount of works that have been, that were finishing the last decade in this era I was calling and have called and now continue to call the Invisible Renaissance, and make it more visible to you. And on that list of people, because there was so many and this book is a beginning to many, many more, there were many people that I have to speak of. And this guest that I'm going to have, you know, on shortly is definitely one of those people. And he literally, if you have the book, he's at the top of the list. I didn't make the list in any kind of order, though, but being that I know him, I just knew he was going to peak to what we're hearing now from him, you know? And just want to give a quick thank you, shout out. Check out that last show, number 78, where we had A. Preem from Chicago. The tough stuff, the hardcore stuff. And the latest Classic Storm Radio I have out there with DJ Toshi, where I got an exclusive interview with my big bro, Dark Kim, B.Allah, and Endemic, you know? But I think we got our guest online now, you know what I mean? And I want to read something. This is just one of the tracks that I was on that he asked me to be a guest on and guest on my own track. And it was called When Sunya Speaks. And that's me. And I said this. I said, peace to my niggas, spics, bitches, and the nameless. Welcome to this pillar of poverty, a hard-to-live standard of righteous teachings, loss of fiscal value with every build, increase of principles in stock and worded bond. A quarter century of articulated rage and refined revolution through a fucking world that kept the pen bloody by maneuvers, dodging the corners of being marginalized and paragraphing to the letter of the law. The order to our insanity veiled in civility. So poor, I can only work with words that are priceless. So cultured that old oppression that always marked can only awfully surround, woefully emulate, and loudly starve on my turned pages. Stacked in stanza or pressured in prose, never use the spook to bring them. Scripts in verbatim unison. One font stance, hunger alignment, hold my single space. Now then, plot and plan with looters, crack and arrow. No virus could keep us from what we're sick of. Keep on building everywhere. Kobe. Lecture right at the seat of every child's melanosome. Some lying. Some will never say I grafted the teaching. So avant-garde. Couple my way with Waze. I lay a heavenly phrase on hellish days of 400 years with COVID-19s. Rising pristine, stoic, in black. And man, I had to come with it though because my brother Waze is on the line now. Peace, Waze.
Peace, peace, man. How you doing, man? That was
Uh,
nothing but fire. Nothing but fire you had, man.
man, we're gonna get into that, but man, I'm so hyped. You know what I'm saying? Because the joy of this journalism, I always say, is to either appreciate, and at times most people get into it to depreciate and elevate themselves artificially as that voice of false, a false gatekeeper. But the real joy of this, though, is
Mhm.
to be someone that appreciates the greatness and shows you why you should be appreciating things. And this show is really to present you ways to the listeners, the people that don't know you, the people that don't know that, not only has Waze been that up and comer, but man, we might miss the boat on an incredible record. I don't want to use the word classic because people won't understand that. But if we go back 5, 10 years, I'm telling you, listeners, this is an album that you have to go back and say, 2020, this is the album that I need. This is the one. There's a lot of other albums. It's in the same space as Ka. It's in the same space as a lot of great albums. But if you make a list, a very short list of the albums that signify, show the greatest worth of what this of this year was, this hellish year, that's got to be on it, though. Other people will be known as an artist of that era with tons of stuff. But I'm talking about a particular record. Man, Waze, you did it, man. You did it. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate it.
It's crazy. And so we got to go rewind back, you know what I mean? And let the people know, like, yo, who is Willie Waze? Who's Waze? Like, where the hell is he from? And how the hell did he get all the way up in Australia? You know what I mean? But give us those Spider-Man origins. You know what I mean? Like where you're from, where you started, how you got into this hip hop. Because where you're from, it isn't NYC. It isn't the typical LA story. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I'm from Northern Virginia, man. I'm from Alexandria, neighborhood in Alexandria called Del Rey. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much where I spawned from. But at the same time, my mom was from NYC, so as a kid, I spent a lot of time on them subways, a lot of times on the train in NY and the Bronx and all of that. And all of that together was really spawning my love for hip hop. So I just knew from an early age, like that was the first thing I knew I was going to be. Like in first grade, I wrote down rapper as what I wanted to be when I grew up. So my journey, I put out little independent records here and there, just trying to build my name up, and then found the opportunity to get over to Australia and spread my mic around, and I just took it, man. And I haven't regretted it yet, but this pandemic made things a little complicated.
Well, yeah, you made things complicated too, because you don't live in the States anymore. You moved out to Australia, though. You know what I mean? And I want to go
right.
Before we even get there, I want to go into. There's so much detail because. I'm trying to give some kind of backstory. I would like you to give most of the backstory. You know what I mean? But how did you get yourself known? And the particular individual I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And how that leads up to us knowing each other. But let us know, like, how was it making shows in Virginia and stuff like that? You know what I mean? And what was the vibe out there when you were starting? To cut through.
Well, when I was starting, there wasn't really. There was always a DC scene. At that time you had artists coming up in the DMV and DC, like Logic and Wale and things of that nature coming out of that area. But in Alexandria, there wasn't really. There was a few cats from different hoods doing it, but there was nobody really doing it. And so I always felt like I was. Not to big myself up, but kind of like pioneering that area. So that's why, a lot of my early records were always anthemic and like very much dedicated to where I was from, because I felt like I was tasked with putting it on the map,
Indeed.
And then, somewhere along my journey, I actually, it's weird because I was trying to do this tape called Early Certainty with some beats that I had downloaded from Bronze Nazareth, you know what I'm saying? And he let me do the tape, so props to him. But he wasn't as reachable at the time, so when I had finished the tape, I hit his brother up, Kevlar 7, right? And from then he heard the tape, and from then on, man, it was it was nothing but love, and it was
Right,
like,
and this is
I really
around.
miss that. I really miss that brother,
Oh
man. I
yeah,
really
no
miss
doubt.
him.
Remembered Imperfection, Kevlar
Yeah.
7. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
indeed.
this
Yes,
is
indeed.
around. This is around late 2000s, right?
Yeah, I would say about 2010, 2011. I was my first year in college. I finished that tape up. I recorded it myself, and then I just got it. I was in the studio every night after college doing the shit, and then I sent it over
Hmm.
to an engineer. We knocked it out. Then I sent it to Kevlar when it was done. Like, yo, I think I got your brother on his own beats, yo. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, he was listening. He's like, man, you got skill, but you're not even close yet, man. You're not even close. So I just always, I always tapped in with him and people that genuinely gave me feedback. And through that, they were working. He got me hip to this website called Premier Hip Hop, and that's when I got linked in with Paragon Celestial, and that's when I got linked in with you, man. And then from then on, really the rest is history. Because I do have to give you a lot of props because um, you have basically been the rock. For that whole energy and everything that was built, that Kevlar built, and you've been the one that's been holding that joint down, and you've been making me feel like we still in this together, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. You know what I mean? For some background for the listener, Bronze Nazareth is one of the, he's one of the great producer lyricists of the era, and he is most known for being part of the Wu Elements, one of the latest and probably the last Wu Element producer that RZA named, and he out of Detroit, he formed his own group, the Wisemen, and that was really led by Kevlar 7, who passed away in 2014. And the thing about Kevlar 7 was that he was really such a vital glue, and his ear for the talents, for the rising talents of individuals was uncanny though. He's one of those artists that are like all legendary A&R ears. They knew what people were missing, and they knew who was going to get there. Cuz it's hard, it's easy to, for the listener out there, it's hard to judge an artist, Back then when labels signed people, they signed people for look and a hot record. But it's really the A&R to tell that person, it's like, this guy doesn't really have it in the tank for him, and then they can ditch him. Or the A&R says, we can work with him. And I'm defining this as if the A&R is, in all respect, like actually lives his job and isn't a snake, right? Which is very rare. But this is was the job of an A&R. And that's why I call Kevlar that, so it's not an insult. He had not only had he had so much lyrical talent, but he knew you. There's so many brothers, my brother G Huff, my brother Zagnif Noise, so many people that he knew were gonna be great, and then y'all became great. You know what I'm saying? And,
all good people too. All legit good people.
That's right. Definitely. You know what I mean? And me being the writer, he'd be like, listen, check this guy out and stuff. And I would be like, yeah, Kevlar, this guy is dope. You know what I mean? This guy is dope. And just relationships, though, that are friendship bonds that we've made. And Willie, Waze, you definitely one of them, though, on a personal and a professional music level. You know what I mean? And the thing is,
Yep.
is that on those early mixtapes, they do have a real anthemic vibe that you're trying to get through. And you also experimented in a lot of music, you know what I mean? And I felt this way. This is how I feel. And I don't see how you see this, though. But I felt like you knew you were getting somewhere, and you wanted to rush the process as fast as possible. And I really felt that when I heard the double album, Lexicon of a Nova Soldier. You know what I mean? Because so many elements are there, like it's right there, and you wanted to show all the facets, and you really, if there's anybody that is an example of like people using the albums they release as like their own development pod, it definitely would be the early records you made in the last decade. You know what I mean? But and really for me, Waze, I'm really trying to fish out how the hell you became this good. You know what I'm saying? How it exploded. You know what I mean? And what happened though, because you've always had that good voice. You know, not just you have that southern twang and stuff, a brother out there, like you got it, but it's also got real clarity, so it lends itself to being super lyrical. And I also felt that you were always, you know, not fighting though, but balancing out between like those real boom bap beats and then really kind of those smooth West Coast type beats that, y'all brothers out down there be doing, you know what I mean? And all on the West Coast, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it seems like it's NYC and everybody else, you know? But
Yep.
for the listener, when they go back and they go through they go through that Willie Waze, right? Willie, WILLIE WAZE and they see all these records there and really enjoy them. Tell me
Yes,
about
indeed. Yes, indeed, man.
tell me about some of the process when you were making the double album, and why you did it. And because I remember going through it with you and hearing your process, and I never interrupted the process. I saw what you were trying to do, and I liked the daring that you were taking in that. But it was a big dare, like you're finally releasing records you have control of, and then you just go all double album. You know what I mean? Like, what was the science with that?
Well, basically, I just wanted to, at that time in the area, because if you listen, that album is basically my area on wax, the lexicon of a Nova soldier. Nova being Northern Virginia, soldier being anybody doing, fighting their battle. So I based at that time my area in that hub was a lot going on. You know what I mean? And the shift was starting to happen in society and in just in life period where us young black men started to feel very much mortal. We started to really see our mortality and our the limitation of our lifespan possibly. So with that happened, it was a lot of paranoia, a lot of let me get this out, let me just get the whole message out just in case something happened to me. That's why believe me, there was a list of people that was like, brother, just make it 4 EPs. Do 2 albums. They both hot. Just do 2 albums. I'm like, man, I gotta let this drop as one whole message. It's like my manifesto. Like if something happened to me, this is how I felt about everything. So, some of my views have changed since then, but at that time, that was my mind, body, and soul on record. And I felt like I had to do that. Because as you see now, it's only gotten worse. So rappers, things with rappers, especially in the younger generation, you just never know. So, being in my area at the time was people only getting killed by cops and things just being hot and just, unnecessary. I felt like I had to just lay it all on the line,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see that. Like when we talk, I'm just getting that pattern too that there's always some type of intensity that you put on yourself. I don't know, am I getting this correct? But to get into your writing mode, and we talked about writing mode, you know what I mean? And there's some type of, it's almost like to get yourself to write the best you can. I feel like you put a lot of burden on yourself and to get it all out there. Like you love that deadline feel, you know what I mean? And, making a record today is all released by you. So there is no technical deadlines, you know what I mean? And it's almost like you make one for yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I always wanted to be a MC, a prolific MC. And as coming up in the game, I didn't always have an abundance of studio access and all of that. So, now that I have the ability to record, I'm in Australia. We still kind of on lockdown. So I'm in the crib cooking up. And I just wanted to make up for lost time, I feel, because I saw that the underground scene was going to start replicating the trap output. I was like, that's the key to success now. Put out so much music, they can't deny it. And now that's pretty much the law of the land now. So now I feel like I'm behind, even though I saw it in 2010. I saw it in 2011. Like the only way we're going to crack through is if you're putting out 4 to 6 projects, EPs, whatever, a year. So now I'm like, it's my time to get in this game.
Right. And, it's not for me personally, it's not something that I actually love, I really don't think every MC can do it, When you were making Lexicon, though, did you have a lot of that type of access that you have now with the recent records, or was it still difficult to get studio time?
Absolutely not, man. Everything was I mean, I had the beats was all for the love, like people believed in me, and so I was blessed to have a nice folder of beats, and then from then on, I had to get studio time. A lot of the double discs I actually recorded while I was in school, so I would like skip class or do whatever I could, and then I record in the studio in class. And like just because I went to school for audio, so I would be in class like knocking out songs and just doing. I done been to over 10 studios recording that tape, just trying to get it done. And those are pretty much all the songs I recorded for it. Up until Free Willie, I wouldn't say I had like a extra songs or the unreleased tracks. Now I'm starting to grow a nice library.
Definitely. And in that process, like what gets used, what doesn't get used. Was Lexicon really that album where you learned and stuff? Because I felt like because it was so long, you couldn't really just do bars for the whole album. You actually had to have like key songwriting moments, songs about your brother, songs about this, songs about that. And
just me on wax, like my actual life,
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, this when you do Lexicon, you're still here in Virginia, You're still here.
Yep.
And then obviously there's a gap between these records and stuff, between the records we're going to talk about now, because then you moved into Australia. And obviously a lot of that is a personal decision and stuff like that, but how did it impact the music making, and how did you expect it to impact the music making? And how did that actually come up with the plan? Like, how has it actually been instead?
Well, okay, so after Lexicons, I didn't really get to drop much for maybe 2 years. Just life, living life, coming of age, and having to make sure I'm able to continue to write. Because, this music thing, it takes years for money to come from it, man. So I had to start really, taking care of my life game. I had to make sure I was as good at life as I'm as good as an MC. So I had to get my weight up in life. And then I found the opportunity. My fam was out here. My cousin was actually out here in Australia, and he was like, "Cuz, man, they love hip hop out here. You come out here, man. I'm trying to tell you, they gonna love it." So I'm like, and I was at a point in my life where I could afford to do that. No seeds, anything like that. So I was like, you know what? Why not? So I took the opportunity, and then when I got here, this is when I started working on Free Willie. And I would say that it impacted my process in the sense that I was actually able to kind of step outside of the situation, step outside of the same energy that I've been in my whole life, the same area. I was able to see things for what they really were. And I actually was able to start seeing myself for who I really was, being all the way away from my home base. You really get to see who you are. You really get to see what you're made of. And I started developing a deeper understanding of myself just outside of my identity to where I was from, like my own personal identity. And I would say that was the biggest impact and the biggest benefit of actually not just coming to Australia in particular, but just leaving my home. I miss it deeply. Like I said, the pandemic makes it a little difficult for travel. So it's been almost 2 years since I've seen my family. And if I dwell on it too long, you get to getting homesick. So I just try to put it on wax. Like, just keep, I look at it like I'm in the military and I'm deported or something, like I'm trying to do this for my family and do this for myself, and take advantage of this opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because these records end up being, living audio cards to back home, you know what I mean? And, we're going to talk about some of those songs and stuff like that. But then we get to these albums here. And, it's crazy ways. We have a lot of time to talk about these records. And we need to, you know what I mean? I need for you to give me the real insight on these records, because one of them is when I heard Free Willie, and that officially came out in April of this year, I was like, yeah, Waze, he's rapping really layered. That was the first thing I thought was the layering that you had, especially a lot of the songs at near the end. You know what I mean? Survivor's Lament, Benevolent Prospects, Infinite Ways. Those bars on there. You know, there's a lot of songs that that are real intricate. You know what I mean? And the thing about it, right, is what did you take into that process, though? Because even Free Willie means something, though. You know what I mean? It sounds funny, though, but it means something. You let us know what that means.
So for me, Free Willie, the free stands for finally realizing everything exists. And that's what it is to me. Like I wanted to break down what would free mean to me. And that's what I believe being free is, you know what I'm saying? Because it starts in the mind, in my opinion. So, you know, finally, once you realize there's as above, so below, and left and right, everything exists, good, bad. Everything exists in this world, you know, and you no longer choose to be blind to what's going on or dumb, deaf, and blind to what's going on. Then you realize, you know, that's when you can start to free yourself from this mental enslavement. So that album was pretty much that process, you know, and in terms of the layering, I've always wanted to pride myself on being a lyricist. I study lyricism. I'm somewhat of a hip hop historian. I know I could at least teach a summer camp on hip hop history and things like that.
Absolutely.
So I studied the greats, but I study the greats influences. That's one of my jewels I would give the rappers. Like, if you're going to study Nas, study G-Rap. Like, you know, like I even was so dedicated to the point where I was downloading Mr. Magic mixes and 87 Marley Marl and 90 Pete Rock WBL, that stuff, just to be like, yo, this what they was listening to. This was they juice. So I would listen to a lot of that. I would listen to, you know, KRS-One is who artist I really, really look at heavily. And then, like you said, like we say, like Kevlar, always checking in and listening to Kevlar, because I feel like he left his music, is like he left these jewels and infinite jewels here with us, and I always go back to that. Bronze Nazareth, these are rappers that keep my pen sharp, and you know and also I'm just at this point I've been rapping. I'm 20 now, right now. I've been rapping since at least I was 5 or 6. So I damn near think in metaphor. So I can't even really explain myself in life regularly without being like lyrical. So it's just, you know, the intricacies is pretty much natural. It's not even really forced. But I just always want to know that even no matter how catchy I try to be, that I have some jewels and something for lyricists and hip hop heads to appreciate.
And tell me about, like, because all, you know, these 2 albums this year, you work with a lot of producers. Tell me about the selection process. I'm always interested in the selection process, how it goes into making the theme. Are these beats you collected and say, I like all these beats, or, you know, or I have particular themes and that beat will fit this theme I'm trying to get across, whether it's written down or not completely. How did it go?
Yeah, I usually just collect beats throughout my weeks, my years. I'm always trying to like court a producer and get some beats, or trying to see what we can do, and trying to get, you know, that's the heartbeat for us rappers. We need beats out here, you know what I mean? So I ain't trying to just be doing freestyles and some mixtape shit all the time. So I'll be trying to collect that, and I always try to initially keep it home based. So, you know, producers like my man Essie, he did a lot of the more that trappier sound on Free Willie. I felt like that was a sound that I really wanted to show that I can get on and still do my thing and keep it funky fresh. So he was an integral part in that. Early on in Lexicon and all of that, had producers like Grussell, who did My Life Is Not a Movie, and had that what I would consider that Northern Virginia soul bounce. You know, that classic sound that Lexicon had. That was very much Grussell. Producers like Jay Skrilla, who just dropped a tape with my man K Beta, and I'm about to me and Skrilla working on the album in 21. So it's like, I just always wanted to keep it home based, but now as I've grown and the internet and people hear about me more, I'm starting to get more DMs with producers wanting me to check their stuff out. And, you know, I take a liking to the younger producers that are on the come up, because, you know, it's a lot to be said for humility sometimes. And, you know, working with the younger cats, they tend to be more hungry and ready to get it done. So, you know, I always look at keeping an eye out for that. But once I get the beats, I like a folder, a nice big folder, and then I just live with the beats, man. Like I walk with the beats, I eat with the beat, and then I just go through a slow trimming process. Then I start to carve out the album, and then I usually try to do the track list based on what the listener might be thinking while listening to it. Like, okay, track 3, that's enough energy. Let's make it more soulful. Put this track in there, kind of trying to almost right? Like what do we call it? Psychology almost. You know what I mean? Whatever it would be. I just try to. I think I always. I don't think there's a name for how I do it. I just know it's worked for me so far. You know what I mean? Like I always try to guess what a listener would think. And that would determine how I play certain songs and then certain beats and everything. So that's pretty much in a nutshell my album process.
I definitely see that. You know what I'm saying? And I see you doing that because when you do your sometimes when you do stuff Waze, it outside of like just making the music, it always seems like research projects. When you do reviews of albums, it's like you're doing research projects to see what you think and then see how people think about what you thought about something, like there's always like research being done by you and always probing the ideas of people, you know what I mean? And,
yeah, you peeped that, huh? You peeped that?
yeah, especially on the social media.
Man.
You're an algorithm collector, yeah.
Man, the sun sees all, man. The sun sees it all, man.
The Waze algorithm collector, yeah. But yo,
I'm glad that you peeped that. I'm glad that you peeped that. That's basically it's like this is how I get the people. This is how avant-garde happens. Mm-hmm. I test the temperature, and I test the minds and the current groupthink of the people.
Mm. Well, let's talk about some of these Free Willie songs really quick because some of them that I really like. I want to name some songs and tell me about the process of making it and what you were trying to do with that.
Okay.
Windows and Mirrors I really liked, and you said that was, from SE and he had more of the trap beats, but I really liked that one and what you were doing. And tell us about that one.
Windows and Mirrors. Well, that's basically, I actually believe I wrote that song. I want to say, man, the song might have been written around lexicon time. It might have been written around lexicon time, and I just wrote it like it was just something on my mind. Like it was just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like you just get a urge to get something off your chest, and I got that off my chest, and I didn't record it until I got over here in Australia, and I realized there was a lot of things that I was saying that were very much still relevant, and I felt like it was something that needed to be on the tape, because like I said, with Free Willie, we're finally realizing everything exists. And when I wrote that song, sometimes I feel like, I don't know if you feel like this as a writer, sometimes I write songs before I understand them.
Interesting.
Like, you ever write,
build on that,
like my understanding is like, I know what I'm trying to say, but then the gravity of what you actually say don't hit you till much, much later. So when I wrote that, it was like, yo, this is just how I feel like. And then I looked back and was like, whoa, this is like, this is on some Pac shit, this is like, yo, real. I know it's a lot of people that's going to relate to this. Mm-hmm. This is heavy. So I knew I had to put that on the tape. I had to record it, and Essie blessed me with that beat, and I felt like it was the perfect beat for, basically because you have, right now, the youngins, they gravitate into music that's more emotional driven. It's a little darker. You know what I mean? Right. And I feel like being that he was a young producer, given that time, I feel like the perfect beat for that was to give something that the youngest was going. The youngest. If you really look, all of these new rappers, the teenage rappers, they all emo in a way. They all, either rock influence or just very introspective and dark. And I felt like that was the perfect beat for that.
Definitely a great track and stuff. And I don't. It's interesting though because it's my bias or how it goes, but sometimes I look back at Free Willie, and I'm almost listening to Free Willie now, and this is just—it's really your fault. But after Avant-Garde, I listened to Free Willie to try to get answers of how this massive leap to me in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Happen and stuff because to me it's a massive leap. But when I listen to Free Willie more, it's there. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the layering, all of the the unique choruses though, because that's one thing I'll say about, if I could just be cliche or stereotypical or generalize. A lot of New York's NYC rappers or typical boom bap, they don't always have the best choruses, and they certainly don't put melody on their spoken choruses very well. You know what I mean? If you ever notice, whereas a lot of your choruses, they have melody very easily. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking obviously of the song that you asked me to be on, though. The 100 Block Shorty, because it was, when I heard it, I was like, wow, that's the beat that he gave and put me on. Like, what the hell?
It's vision, man. It's all the vision.
and it's crazy. I would have never thought that, and yet it worked and stuff. And that's what I mean by the choruses and how you get things across. Though it puts you in that vein of making a song much easier. You know what I mean? Being able to master a chorus, being able to make a chorus become also a hook. We love the legends like Doom and others that they deliberately don't do the choruses. You know what I mean? But that's an art, and that's a key to making a songwriting though, having that hook and having it something that hooks in the mind, especially when it's a lot of deep ideas that then can be funneled and in some miraculous way made into some type of hook, and they're all over. You know what I mean? But when you name the title track obviously that's supposed to signify and represent the entire album theme, though. Tell me about making that, or where was it in the process? Was it early in the process? Or was
you talking about Free Willie?
Right,
Free Willie
the
or Avant-Garde?
No, the Free Willie track.
The
actual Free Willie track,
That was towards the end of the process. Because I got this weird thing about myself, man. Like, if there's any beats that I feel like I really wanna say a lot on, or if it's a beat that's like I really champion in my head, I kind of push it back a little bit. It's like that homework assignment, like you're like, nah, I'm gonna mess with that paper a little later.
Right.
I ain't gonna tackle that. I'm gonna go ahead and knock these spelling bee joints out right quick. So like, that's how I kind of did. But that, I knew that beat. When you hear it, it's not even a beat. It's a vibe. It's like a feeling. It's just it's like a moment in time. So I was like, man, how do I even begin to really tap into this? And then, like I said, man, living out here, I got to do a lot more reflecting on myself as a whole, like the good and the bad within myself and my spirit and my soul. So as these revelations are coming to me as I'm getting older, I'm starting to really just write them on wax. And that's basically what happened with this. It was one night I listened to that beat, and it was just, I just had to pour this shit out, pour it out, man. There was nothing else really to it. I didn't even have to think too hard that night. Usually it took me a while to write to that beat, and then one night it just came all out in the same night, man.
And then now, I guess it leads straight into what I really want to spend a lot of time on, and really most of the rest of this episode here. This incredible album, Avant-Garde. I've been open since you told me the title. I thought that was just great wordplay. And I'm trying to not hype it up, but I don't see how anybody wouldn't love the record or see the excellence in what was achieved on this record. And, if not, I'm going to do my best, listeners, to try to prove it to you. So while you listen, take some pauses, listen to the record, come back, and then listen to what we're talking about here. You know what I mean? And
indeed.
But tell me, because I remember you initially telling me that this is going to be like a street album, something quick to throw out there. And then 6 months later, after the release of Free Willie, you give us this, and it's monumental. So tell me about the title and everything, and that beginning process of developing it.
Well, I would have to say, it was 6 months time, but in all honesty, like every time I finish a project, I always take like a vacation from writing. You know what I mean? To like gather new life experiences and all of that, and just really reflect on what I did the last project to see what I can say next. I hate to repeat myself. So, for the first maybe 2 or 3 months, I was just working, doing, getting my footing in life in Australia. And all the while I'm doing this, I'm looking over back home, and it's just like it seemed like it was burning, like America was burning. And then that fire started coming over to here. The social issues started creeping over to here, and it started to affect where I was at as well. And then I got to talk to my family, and it's also a lot of things that's happening in America now. I feel are just heightened things that had been happening my whole life when I was there. So it was something. It was an experience, and a lot of things that I could draw from just from experiencing it, knowing what's going on, knowing the current climate, and then I just figured right now was the perfect time to put it on wax. Avant-garde, the name is basically like, you got avant-garde jazz,
right.
You got art that is avant-garde, kind of like the future, ahead of its time, a bit different, but I know that name is often intertwined with art. So when I did avant-garde, instead of avant-garde, I wanted to do avant-garde. That was kind of like the pain within art and the art within pain. Cause right now I feel like everybody is hurting. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is hurting. And I believe avant actually means like future, if I'm not mistaken, future. So it's like the things we are dealing with now that are coming to a head are from the past. You know what I'm saying? But it's building up right now in the present, and there's no signs of showing that it won't happen in the future. So it's like these scars and the pain that we're going through now is still more to come until we realize as a people the things that we got to do coming together, and till the whole basically us as a whole decide to make changes that need to be done. But that's a talk for another time. But if you look at the cover, it basically says everything that I tried to symbolize within the name and that I tried to symbolize on the album.
And that is one heavy ass cover, though. It looks like the end of a Western. You know what I mean?
Oh man,
it really does.
Right.
Like that's the end of the Western. But
yeah, that's all that. Because at the end of the day, like I said, the future, like avant-garde. If you go, it's so many layers to the way I did it, but I had to make sure that it was legitimate, even if it was broken down literally. Because in my head, at first, it was like, oh, avant-garde, that's art and jazz and shit, right? I'm like, okay, well, avant-garde, man, the art of this pain on music.
Right,
so
right.
Then I was no, actually look up the definition, G, do the knowledge. So I looked at it, and I'm like, oh, okay, so avant, it's like futuristic, future. So I was like, yo, literally future scarred as well, scarred in the future. And I'm like, that still fit. It still fit. And then when I really got that down, that's when I did the album cover. Because when you look at it, you got I'm sure you already peeped everything, that the symbolism that's in it. And I think that I did it. I did it to the best of my ability to make it accurate.
Definitely. Now that you got the producers here, the quality of the sound is great. You know what I mean? But some of these producers you've used before, and they give you some of their richest, thickest, and really hardcore beats. You know what I mean? And a lot of different styles. You know what I mean? So when you were selecting this, did you have to tell them, like, this is what I'm trying to do here? Like, I'm trying to do something a little different, a little bit more harder, more aggressive. How did it go?
I would say, like, it's the same process I go through with most albums. Like those beats, I would probably say I had most of those beats for maybe 2 or 3 years. I always knew an avant-garde type project was going to be necessary. So I have many a playlist and many a beat folders for different projects. Like I'm already starting to get beats and start writing for 2022 shit, So I always had that. I'm like, one day I'm going to drop an unfiltered, unadulterated joint sonically. I didn't quite know if it was going to be as political or as current. That kind of came spur of the moment, and then I just started writing like crazy. But overall, production-wise, I've had most of those beats for a long time. Like the Beans joint might have been 5-6 years old. So yeah, it's a lot of joints on there that's hard. That was like I've been sitting on for a while to that perfect time that I feel like I need to give it to the people.
Before I get into any of these specific tracks, I wanted to let the listener know about that diversity, and if this was on purpose, of speakers, black speakers of different ideals, and not always the same ideal. And I felt like the way you did that, having clips from MLK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, it gives a spectrum of the humanity of black struggle. So even though you might have your own particular ways, right, of going about what this black power, black struggle is, all of the people that are fighting though are having something to do with it. You know, I know with you it had to have some purposeful aspect to it, but I just want to hear you talk about that because I thought it was great.
Okay, again, with me being obsessive and because like I said, I've been rapping so long, my brain is I think in album and all of that. So like when I was so literal once I found out avant-garde, and I broke that down. Like I was saying with the title, I was like, yo, the perfect way to really exemplify it, like you said, and very few people see it, but you see the layers of the album that I add hella layers. So I make sure that if you any way you listen to it or however you choose to decipher it, you get your jewels worth. So I was like, Future Scars. I was like, yo, these the things that these brothers said are as relevant today, if not more relevant than they were then. So I was like, I have to use that. I didn't want to use any of the new media. Because you always got, a lot of the new media that ain't soon years. You got to question sometimes, you know what I mean? So I was like, the only way to get the authentic message and the authentic, I was like, yo, I got to get it from the pioneers. I got to get it from the legends and the brothers that really was knee deep in the struggle for our people. So, I started it off with Martin Luther King, but I made sure I was really particular with what I chose. I didn't choose the I Have a Dream speech. I choose his last recorded interview where he was like, basically, yo, it's real. It's real out here. I believe I was a bit misguided. I was a bit blinded with hope at that time. And I was like, yo, I mean, that's all leading to this. That's leading to, these realizations that even our great minds had later in their life is exactly the things that are happening to us, So I figured that was a good way to start the album off.
Yeah, and this living contemplation as hell is going on, and we have to react to it or deal with it. That lead into the humbling, the first track, because I just want to go through these tracks, man. I had here on a slow tempo bass drum pounder. It's not really like a 1 2 3. It's not a 1 2 break beat. It's a bass drum pounder. You flow immaculately in this tempered cadence, easing us into your very first verse amid like all these no justice, no peace chants in the background. And I love it's such a serious work, but the way you dive in is so stylistically dope. You know what I mean? Like it's just right on the pounds. Resident Evil. Tell me, what's the new weapon to greet you? And it's the pauses ways that are just, the listener has to really think about that, I think it's biological. It could take out whole blocks, won't have to pop at you. Under the umbrella, corporations change the station. But I'm going to keep going here. Then you say something poignant I'd like you to add on about, right? You said, no cure. Vaccination is taxation on mad nations. Mortality, fatality, nationalities. From one thread, this can spread automatically. Pandemic. You want to know how you take away a man's spirit? You kill any hope, then you take away his job. And you make him stay home, that way he can't rob. Now comes the stimulus. Businesses get bailed, other lives held strenuous. Tell me about first the idea. Some of these parts in the lines on some build on, but tell me first about, because it's really a relevant topic now, because now that you see Trump has been voted out and we have to deal with his baby shenanigans, but the idea about vaccinations, because now that's become the new news story of fear to throw out at everybody. Get ready for vaccinations, it's coming. So and throughout this album, not even this song, you're very anti-vaccination. I just want to get your ideas on that, because I have mine and I have plenty of forums to build on what I think about them. But when you were writing this, though, what were you thinking?
Oh man, I was thinking a lot, man. I know I did. I tend to do my intros last so that they can be all encompassing. So I did that after the album was pretty much done, and I was like, okay. Then I had to think, what can I do to lead into all of these topics? Like, it's very much of the times, it's good, but I'm like, I still need that, like, how do I start this off? Like, how do I start this movie off? How do I do this? And I figured the perfect way to start it was that all of the things that were happening were already happening. Police brutality, all of this cancel culture, everything was happening. But I feel like this pandemic brought everything to a head. Everything. So with that is how I put everything. That's when I started to focus. I believe I wrote this all in, and because sometimes I might take 2 weeks to write a song. I might just piece by piece. And other times it just comes out. I think this was one of the ones that just came out just because of the beat and everything was so dry. I could just feel it, and I just felt like compelled to write that down. Basically, I just wanted to describe how people felt. Like I start to learn as an MC. Because I tend to do a lot of my music is introspective, but with Avant-Garde, I didn't want to do that. I gave you like 2 or 3 songs about me, but it wasn't about me. This time it's bigger than me, it's bigger than it is all of us. So, I wanted to make sure that on Wax, even if everything that I say on this track ain't always 100% just exactly how I feel. It's how other people feel too, and I always try to take into account perspectives.
Right, and we'd have to.
I always wanted to take account. So everybody got a reason to listen and to draw, and so I could draw more people in. I'm not trying to convert you. I'm trying to let you know that I understand and we in this together. So that's why, that's kind of the backdrop to how I write, and especially how I wrote the intro.
Yeah, we definitely could put Trump check on there, and the cleverness of the way you flip that. You know what I mean? And then the song that you're tired of, though, but I don't think people are tired of, though. Then you hit it off with the. I have to ask you because it's such a. I know this track took a long time for you, and the cleverness of it is extreme. The panic buy, you know what I mean, where you go through the store and it's, with this pandemic. And,
right.
I mean, that song never is not clever, though. You know what I mean? Like, I always find something funny in it, or I laugh at a different part of it every time. Yeah.
Well, that was like I wrote that. Actually, that was one of the quicker songs. It's weird because sometimes some of the easier songs, or that come across simpler, it takes longer to write. But that one took about maybe a night and a half. You know what I'm saying? Me just walking around like a zombie, just channeling. Because if you think about it, it has a flow to it, to where it's like a pattern. So it was kind of easy to do. Once you catch that pattern, it was easy to kind of do it, because I had a visual reference, because I was going through this, not as wild, but I went through the panic buy shit here in Australia, you know what I'm saying, where I had to make sure I was good, and I had to go to the store, and I actually pretty much wrote the song based on the way that the store was actually organized when I went to it. So, when I walked in, it was the produce and everything, and you got to be, I wrote that literally how the store that I shop at, I wrote it based on that. And then I wanted to make sure, like you said, layers. I always want to make sure, like, nothing is just naked to the naked eyes. Nothing just is as it appears. It's always deeper, because that's what life is. So with this one, not only did I choose the particular people, how rich folks getting smoked by leafy greens, the gangsters near the beef, the you know what I'm saying, and the Asians taking over the international shit, you know what I'm saying? So it was like I tried to make sure it wasn't just for the sake of being, because it could be funny, but then if it was just funny, Waze, this joint might be a skip, this might be a novelty. But I'm like, there's actually social commentary. There's actually, like I said, I'm like it's actually, this is damn near statistics on Wax. Like, this is like how people associate these demographics or these types of people with that by the food. You know what I mean? And I felt like that hasn't been done yet. I know nothing's new under the sun, but I try to do things that haven't quite been done yet, and I felt like I haven't heard that. So I was like, I got to go for it. Plus, I also feel personally I don't do many story songs or songs that are directly like, like directly Slick Rick, Biggie. I don't have tales. So I wanted to have a tale for the people,
Definitely. And, just songs out of that layering, the title track, just the way you started it off, the paradox of locks, keys, codes, conundrums, I rocks and I knocks keys, tones, and dumb drums. I mean, that whole song was crazy. And that song segues because it also has that emotion into it. You know what I mean? I keep thinking of that OC line, the more emotion I put into it, the harder I rock. You know what I mean? And that was you on this album. Right. Because Avant-Garde realizations. When I think of realizations, that's really talking to the people as the people. You know what I mean? And it has such a great tone. Exactly what you were saying you were trying to do. And then, you know, songs like Once Said. Man, the cleverness is all over though, and the wordplay is all over. You know, where's I forgot the song. I had it written here. The where you talked about, oh yeah, on Beams, where you were like, you see true that what he brew is real light. I mean, come on, man. Please, come on.
Yeah, I'll be doing shit sometimes. I'll be saying shit.
I was like, yo, he was wilding out on this record, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny because it's so serious, though. Everything goes, to me, so well said. I mean, you had a lot. It just sounds like you had a lot of fun making this joint. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was at the house, man. I was at the house. So, you know, I mean, you know, this quarantine, I think a lot of people on a certain level can kind of agree that in certain ways this pandemic helped them out in one way or another. Like some people, I mean, you know, I know this is really that, but in some type of way, or the people who chose to make the best out of this situation saw that it was a blessing in disguise, I feel. And I would say this blessing in disguise for me was the fact that me being able to strictly focus on my art like day in and day out was a blessing. And I think that's what this came across as. But I tried to make even though I was in the house, I tried to give it an authentic feel. Like I wasn't just recording all day. I literally recorded one song a day, and then I would record like 3 songs for a week, and then I'd sit off for 2 weeks, and then like just live. You know what I mean? Just, you know, play Xbox or something, read a book, study up on something, and then do whatever. But I tried to give it a nice space so it didn't feel rushed, so you don't feel at home, you don't feel confined. You know, so that's how I tried to keep it interesting and fresh, because it may be hard to believe, but having a studio right in your crib, even though I know people like Napoleon the Legend they kind of prove me wrong with this, but sometimes it gets tedious. You know what I mean? So it can affect your creative process, and for me at least. So I always try to do little things, especially because I'm in the house. So I wouldn't just record all day. What I do is I save recording the songs till the end of the night. Like I'd roll up or drink a little or something or whatever. Like I take all day to record it. Like if I was Biggie or something, just, you know, they say Biggie used to sit for hours and just vibe. Like that's what I'd be in the house just watching football or something, just vibe and just letting the beat play all day. And then when I recorded it, you know, it came out like that. You know, and I think that it shows, like you said, you can hear it, and I definitely feel it. You know, this was the first project I recorded. I think I maybe did Panic Buy in one other studio before the whole thing, because you remember I dropped that months ago. But I actually did every song except Panic Buy in the house, like in quarantine during this pandemic, and that's why I feel it's another layer of authenticity to it.
Yeah, and it's just filled with great bars. Bonus scars, I really hate to see more, but it's inevitable to see shells without the seashore. My dialect could reach chords, none of that surface babble. And that's a wordplay, like, wow. You know, it's just crazy. Once Said, I had written like most of this verse down here. It's crazy. But
that's a special track. That's a special track.
These songs aren't long. They're going they barely go over 2 minutes. Some of them go just to 3, and they're just, you know, I'm just really proud, Waze. We're at the end of this hour. This, you know, there's so much more I could say about this record. You know, obviously, Waze, your career, I'll be writing about more books to come. But I'm really proud that I could write something and add on to this album. You know what I mean? Because it just.
I appreciate you being down, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being down.
Absolutely, and you know,
because you got the best verse on the album. You know,
man,
with
the stuff you got, there's so many.
You ate me up, man. You ate me up.
Yeah, man, there's so many lines I got here from you. The word "fighting temptations" to start roughing these niggas. Come on, roughing.
At the end of the day, I want to like. You know, I always try to play it cool, you know, I'm already from an area that don't got the spotlight. It's growing, but it don't really got the spotlight, but we got talent. And I just want people to start a social. Like, I feel like my pen game is up there with whoever people want to champion at this moment. You know what I'm saying? And I just got to make sure I keep showing and proving that. You know, that's why I was kind of trying to push that, yo, this album of the year, album of the year. I'm like, it could, and that's relative.
Yeah,
what you call it? You know, that's up to the people to decide. But
right.
I got to start getting over that hurdle. Like, I feel like people look at me as like they man's Willie who rap.
Absolutely, Waze.
When people need to start looking at me like, yo, this, like, I done did this too long to just be like, because, you know, because when you look at, yo, that's your man who rap, you ain't going to be pressed to support him. You just like, yeah, he rap, he do his thing. You got to, if you going to go see them other cats live, you got to start looking at me in that same level. I feel like I'm giving people art and content that's in the same level as what's being championed right now. So I just had to make sure that the only way that I can eventually get to that level where the people really see it is I got to make sure my pen game is abnormal. So I just make sure I'm always, you know.
Man, and with that said, man, Waze, we could catch you at Wazeology, WAZEOLOGY on Instagram. Catch him on the Twitter, WillieWaze703. Go to williewaze.bandcamp.com. Support this album, though. It really is as great as I said it was, though. And if not, though, you don't know hip-hop or you're not really listening. I'm being like that really hard. But Waze, we got much more to do. And until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. Thank you to my guest, Willie Waze. And I'm your host, Sunez. And as always, The Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.